consistent if you start from the broader perspective and include the things which encompass a smaller group of objects.
Can you put up my slide?
I didn't know that was
the question I have is lexicon in most of our students' lexicon? Words are words. Are we going to put it? Does he remember my slide? Yeah. Oh, very good. To me, looking at visuals is an important thing when we make an observation. What we observe and how we describe it is the most important thing. When we have words in our mind, we convey the picture we have in our mind. We have our... It's not up on the...
It's coming.
It's coming. There it is, yes. I was going to try using this yesterday, and what you want to read is, despite its name, the thesaurus was quite often at loss for words. We are humans, and our ability to convey pictures in our mind to others is what makes us humans and separates us from the other animals. And what's important to us is how we convey the pictures in our minds, communication. My shuttle driver the other day was saying, well, he pictures something in his mind when he's trying to convey it to his kids. When we are trying to convey what we see or what we observe, the pictures we have in our minds is what we're conveying to teachers, to the public, to students. So, and as I said yesterday, you can read something, 10% you'll remember. You can hear somebody tell you something, but showing pictures, which is everything we've been doing today and yesterday, we put lots of words up on there, but we also put a picture in there because connecting those words with those pictures helps us understand what we're trying to get across. Communication is pictures and words. And so whatever we do, we need to think of the students, the teachers, as David said, who we're communicating with, and pictures help us do that. So if we look at images of planets, or what we call planets, or dwarf planets, it's those images that help us understand what we're looking at. We look at the pictures and we go, hey, that object looks like that object. Maybe they're both planets. That object looks a little different than another. Its color's different. It's got an atmosphere. Then it sets it apart. Why are there differences? Why are there similarities? Can't do that with words. Got to do it with pictures. Just put this all together this last couple of hours. So hope I got across in images what I'm trying to explain.
I suppose some of you are aware that these days I mostly do history of astronomy. Of course, 2 years ago is already history. So I'm not necessarily totally au courant with everything that's going on these days. So this is the time of the Olympics, and we're reading in the newspapers about all the gold medals. And if I were handing out a gold medal for a paper, I thought that Renu's paper this morning was just terrific. I learned so much from it. She would get my gold medal for the most interesting and informative paper from my point of view. Now, the second remark I want to make is I really should make an apology to Hal Levison, because he felt that I was probably demonizing the dynamicists, and that wasn't my intention. In fact, when I showed the picture of the distribution of these hundreds, probably thousands of asteroids, minor planets beyond Neptune, I was going to remark that there is a very interesting discovery showing on this image. That is the relative clearing of the area between Neptune and Saturn compared to what lies in that Kuiper belt immediately outside it. But when I heard Steve Soder's paper, and he said that it shouldn't have been clearing the neighborhood, it should have said it's the dominant planet in its zone, bells rang in my mind, and I realized that as I was leaving Prague, that was the wording in the resolution. And I was appalled when I was watching the streaming video of the actual session going on in Prague to realize that somehow in the next 24 hours that had been changed back. And I think it had been changed back probably by the insistence of one of the very vocal, yes, arrogant,
yes,
scrappy dynamicists. And I'm afraid his image, and it wasn't Hal. Hal was a voice of reason. He was working on a compromise which I think would have been, would have saved the day. But at any rate, he had said, not Hal, but this other anonymous person, that if we could not include in the definition clearing the neighborhood, his entire life's work would be abrogated. That somehow he just, cut into his psyche so deeply. And that kind of image was part of what I associate with the revolt, and it doesn't necessarily characterize the behavior of the dynamicists. So that's my apology to you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. One of the reasons why I decided to come to this meeting, and I thought about it a lot actually, was that I felt that a portion of the community really was being demonized by the press and the public, right, having to do with dynamicists, and I don't think it's fair, really, or historically accurate. So thank you for doing that. I really have no opening comments to make. I think everybody in this room understands where I'm coming from and what my position is. You've been hearing it for the last 2 days. And I come to meetings usually in order to learn. And I must admit that although my colleagues gave excellent scientific talks, because of the nature of this meeting, I really didn't learn anything from them because they didn't say anything that was really new, right? So in this idea that I want to learn, one thing that became clear to me yesterday is within our culture, from your guys' perspective, there's a correlation between the word planet and important, right? And I'm hoping from this panel discussion to get an idea from you. I don't understand that, right? To get an idea from you guys why that relationship exists. And that'll help me understand where you guys are coming from, right? Taking a classification and making groupings of classifications from a population is naturally what we do in astronomy. The idea of taking the word planet and restricting it to a small group of objects is how classification schemes work. If you make the word planet mean everything, then it's not an interesting classification. So somehow there's a cultural meaning to the word that I don't think fits into the scientific idea of classifying objects. So I'm hoping to get an answer to that during this panel discussion. Thank you.
You guys keep that so you can pass it around. I think I've got this working.
But you've just said, by the way, that you were advocating to call those 8 the classical planets, and that would have solved the problem because it would have meant that planet itself as a word was not touched.
Yeah, well, let me. I viewed my role at this IAU revolt, which I was at, okay, and then subsequently, as Owen said, was asked to become a member of the people rewriting the definition. Unfortunately, I had to leave before that was completed, right? And my nature is to try to find compromises. If I did it from my own perspective, the word planet would be the 8 classical planets, and that all the other objects would not be considered planets. But that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to compromise on that.
That means you would ignore extrasolar objects?
I meant within the solar system, okay? But still use some kind of discriminator. Like I said in my talk, I prefer a size distribution to discriminate between a major object in the solar system and smaller objects. Right? I think compromise. I mean, we were so close right? The